In the late 1960s, a shadow known as the Zodiac Killer fell over the Bay Area and terrorized San Francisco with a series of brutal murders that remain unsolved to this day. This killer's eerie letters to the media, mysterious ciphers, and provocative behavior captivated the public and filled many with terror. Today, we delve deep into the history of the Zodiac Killer, explore the details surrounding his victims, and reflect on the enduring mystery that surrounds his identity. The Zodiac Killer's first confirmed victims were 17-year-old Betty Lou Jensen and her boyfriend, 18-year-old David Faraday. On the night of December 20th, 1968, they parked their car at a secluded spot along Lake Herman Road in Vallejo, California. They were likely enjoying a romantic evening when they were suddenly ambushed. Witnesses reported hearing gunshots, and when police arrived, they found Betty Lou lying face down, shot 5 times in the back, while David had been shot once in the head as he attempted to escape. The brutal nature of the attack sent shockwaves through the community and marked the beginning of a reign of terror. Just a few months later, on July 4, 1969, the killer struck again at Blue Rock Springs Park, another isolated location in Vallejo. This time, the victims were 22-year-old Darlene Ferrin and her date, 19-year-old Michael Mageau. As they sat in Darlene's car, they were approached by a man wielding a flashlight and a 9mm pistol. The assailant opened fire, hitting Darlene twice in the face and chest, while Michael was shot in the jaw, neck, and chest. Miraculously, he survived the attack, providing a chilling description of the shooter to the police. He recalled a stocky man, approximately 5 feet 8 inches tall, wearing a black hooded garment with a symbol on the front, a design that would become a chilling emblem of the Zodiac Killer. After the brutal attack on Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau, the Zodiac Killer escalated his campaign of terror. Just weeks later, he began sending letters to local newspapers, openly claiming responsibility for the murders. He didn't just confess. He taunted law enforcement and the public, daring them to catch him. Each letter was accompanied by cryptic ciphers and symbols, one of which he demanded be published on the front pages of the San Francisco Chronicle, San Francisco Examiner, and Vallejo Times-Herald. One of his earliest letters included the infamous 408-character cryptogram, a complex series of symbols that concealed a hidden message. The Zodiac challenged both the public and police to decipher it, threatening further violence if his demands weren't met. His instructions were clear. If ignored, he would continue his spree, spreading panic throughout the Bay Area. In an unprecedented move, newspapers published the cryptogram on July 31, 1969, hoping someone would solve it before the Zodiac struck again. Just days later, a schoolteacher and his wife in Salinas, California, cracked the code, revealing a disturbing confession. "I like killing people because it is so much fun." The Zodiac likened murder to hunting wild game, claiming it was the most thrilling experience, more so than getting your rocks off with a girl. He ended the cipher ominously, stating he would continue killing to collect slaves for his afterlife. Following the letters and the murders, the police launched an extensive investigation, but the Zodiac Killer remained elusive. The case took a darker turn on September 27, 1969, when the Zodiac murdered 28-year-old Cecilia Shepard and her companion, 29-year-old Brian Hartnell.
Early last Saturday evening, Celia Shepard and Brian Hartnell, both in their early 20s, were sitting on this knoll of land overlooking part of Lake Berryessa. They thought they were alone, but there was a third man on this knoll, a man who wore a medieval-style executioner's hood, carried a knife and gun, and intended to use them.
He produced a gun, tied them up, and then brutally stabbed Brian 6 times, leaving him for dead. Miraculously, Brian survived and provided a detailed description of the killer, who then shot Cecilia multiple times.
You know that this man is still at large, and that there is a better than average possibility that this could be the same man who was involved in 4 murders over in Vallejo. Can you think of anything that you might want to tell that man at all?
I considered him a robber. I had absolutely no thought that he was anything but that. And when we were at this robbery stage, I didn't consider any real threat to my life or to the girl or anything. I really didn't consider this, but I really wanted to help him. And
Did he seem as though he would like your help at all?
No, he didn't, and he didn't even end up taking the money. But I
Bear no grudge?
Well, of course not. I don't think that he was acting under his total complete consciousness. And when a man is, if you don't mind using the word sick, you can't hold this against them. But the real concern that I have is that he doesn't do this again. I'd like to see some people save this experience.
Following this attack, the Zodiac killer's communication escalated further. He made a phone call to the Napa County Sheriff's Office, announcing that he had just committed the murders.
Vallejo Police Department.
I want to report a double murder.
Yeah, yes, your
Go
name
1
and where
mile
you're calling.
east on Columbus Parkway, Public Park. You'll find kids in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye.
The audacity of calling the police after such a horrific act only added to his infamy and illustrated his belief that he was untouchable. After the murder at Lake Berryessa, the Zodiac killer's final confirmed victim was Paul Stein, a 29-year-old cab driver who was shot on October 11, 1969, in San Francisco's Presidio Heights. Witnesses reported seeing a man wipe down the cab before escaping, adding to the mystery surrounding his identity. The police and FBI launched extensive investigations, leading to numerous suspects over the years. One of the most notable was Arthur Lee Allen, a convicted child molester who died in 1992. Despite circumstantial evidence linking him to the Zodiac crimes, no definitive proof has ever emerged to confirm his guilt. The investigation into the Zodiac killer has since become one of the most famous unsolved cases in American history. The letters, ciphers, and the sheer audacity of the killer have inspired countless documentaries, books, and movies, including David Fincher's critically acclaimed film Zodiac, released in 2007. This film reignited public interest and brought attention to the case, showcasing the relentless pursuit of the truth by journalists and detectives alike. The Zodiac killer's actions reveal a disturbing blend of intelligence, control, and a craving for infamy. He was highly calculated, meticulously planning his attacks and leaving no clues that would lead to his capture. Through his letters to the press, he showed a twisted need for attention, enjoying the terror he inspired and the challenge he posed to police. He didn't just want to kill, he wanted recognition. Psychologically, he displayed traits of a narcissist with a powerful sense of superiority, mocking authorities and relishing the fear he created. His messages, filled with cryptic symbols and taunts, suggest an obsession with leaving a legacy, almost as if he saw himself as an anti-hero in his own dark story. His cold indifference to human life points to deeply antisocial or psychopathic tendencies. To him, each murder was a game, and he justified his crimes with bizarre beliefs, even claiming he was collecting slaves for his afterlife. In short, the Zodiac killer was a complex and terrifying figure, a man who killed not just for pleasure, but to cement his place in history, fueling a dark legend that remains one of America's greatest mysteries. Over the years, countless people have come forward claiming to be, or know, the true identity of the Zodiac killer. Yet, one of the most recent, and perhaps most compelling theories, comes from a TikToker named Jay Fox. In a series of viral videos, Fox makes a chilling claim that his own grandfather, Richard Hoffman, a former police officer, could be the elusive Zodiac. With nearly 13 million views across his posts, Jay Fox shares evidence, family memories, and peculiar details that he believes connect Hoffman to the infamous crimes. His theory has captivated viewers, blending new clues with old mysteries, and raises the question of whether one of America's darkest secrets could finally be close to a resolution.
My grandpa is a Zodiac killer, and this is not clickbait, so please, I need the power of the internet to share this, bookmark it, and blow my comment section up. I want to start off by saying this is not just based off physical appearance. I typed in my grandpa's name on Google the other day, and to my fucking surprise, internet sleuths have been throwing my grandpa's name around for years, connecting him as the Zodiac motherfucking killer. As you can see here in all these pictures on the screen somewhere, that it looks exactly like my grandpa. Let's talk about it. My grandpa was a Vallejo police officer. Yes, the same area where the Zodiac killer's took place. Let's move forward. Let's talk about the Darlene Sharon murder. Let me tell you, this is not in any order, but the more evidence I give you, you are going to be convinced that my grandpa is in fact the Zodiac killer. Darlene Farron and her boyfriend Mike or Matt, forgot the fucking guy's name, were driving around Vallejo one night, a night that my grandfather happened to be on duty, driving an unmarked police car and wearing plain clothes. Mike, who ended up surviving the shooting, said that they were being followed around by this car all night in Vallejo before they pulled into Blue Rock Springs. They said when they parked, the car pulled in, a man hopped out of the car, and Darlene, the girl who passed away, said, "Oh my God, that's Richard. He's going to kill us both." Apparently, she was dating a police officer in Vallejo behind her husband's back. She was apparently a thotty. Rest in peace, Darlene Farron. So this guy in her passenger seat is one of her many boyfriends, and it was well known by her friend group that she was dating a Vallejo cop, although she never told them the name. She had a painting party at her house a few weeks before her murder, and it was said that my grandfather, Richard Hoffman, showed up uninvited, and she told her circle of friends that she is scared to death of him, and he was not invited there. My grandpa denies these claims. Now let's talk about something else that I thought was really weird. In a letter that the Zodiac wrote, and my grandpa's police reports, and also this poem that I'm going to talk about later, my grandpa spells the word until wrong. He spells it wrong. He puts 2 L's at the end. Where in multiple letters of the Zodiac wrote, he also spells until with 2 L's at the motherfucking end. Well, let's talk about the Sherry Bates murder that took place a couple years before the Darlene Farron murder. She was in a library doing her homework. She had just moved from Nebraska. Nebraska, why do I mention that? Because my grandpa lived in Nebraska. My mother, biological mother, was born in Nebraska. My grandpa was also in the Navy. Sherry Bates' brother was also in the Navy. This is weird, right? It's all coming together. Well, this murder took place. She was at the library studying one night. She leaves and gets shot up where they found a poem handwritten underneath the desk. And forensic analysis and handwriting analysis say that it's the exact writings of the Zodiac. And they say that this is possibly the first killing that the Zodiac ever did. Well, this letter was initialed RH at the very bottom. RH, Richard Hoffman. Forensic analysis experts said that letter was written by the Zodiac. It is said that my grandpa and Darlene, the one who got shot in Blue Rock Springs, had a romantic sexual relationship behind everybody's back, behind my grandma's back. Let's talk about his character. My grandpa's character, he was known in my family to be abusive, controlling, manipulating, and also unfaithful to my grandmother. Now we're going to sit here and pretend that my grandpa didn't do this shit. They also say that the crime scene was tampered with. Why did Darlene's family get a call that she was shot before the cops even knew about it? And that call was placed by a payphone outside of Vallejo Police Department. Someone tell me that. And my grandpa was first on scene to that shooting. And later it was revealed that scene was tampered with. My grandpa showed up on scene within 5 minutes of the shooting being reported. He sent away the officers that responded with him. Who sends away responding officers on a possible double murder? And the crime scene was tampered with. It was later revealed. So you're still going to tell me my grandpa is not the Zodiac killer?
If you want to watch the rest of Jay's videos, there will be a link for you in the description. In this video, Jay points to his grandfather's unique position in the Zodiac case. Richard Hoffman was not only a Vallejo police officer, but one of the first responders to the Zodiac's Blue Rock Springs attack on July 4th, 1969. On that night, 2 young people, Darlene Farron and Michael Mageau, were gunned down in their car, a terrifying crime the Zodiac later claimed. Jay's grandfather was on duty that night and, according to Jay, displayed a behavior that seemed odd to others. Hoffman allegedly dismissed other officers from the scene, taking control of the investigation himself, even though Michael Mageau was still alive and fighting for his life. Jay's account raises the question, was this a dedicated officer securing the scene, or something much darker? Jay also reveals what may be a more personal link between Hoffman and the Zodiac's victims, particularly Darlene Farron. Farron, Jay claims, was familiar with his grandfather, and in the weeks before her murder, she allegedly confided in friends that she felt she was being stalked by a Vallejo police officer. According to Jay's theory, Farron recognized the man approaching her car that night as Hoffman himself and reportedly whispered to Mageau, "That's Richard. He's going to kill us both." This chilling claim is difficult to verify, but if true, it would be a major link between Hoffman and the Zodiac. In another video, Jay examines similarities between his grandfather's written reports and the Zodiac's taunting letters. A standout detail: the Zodiac's repeated misspelling of certain words. Hoffman, Jay claims, was known for poor spelling and often wrote until with 2 L's. a misspelling that appears in several Zodiac letters. The resemblance doesn't end there. Hoffman's writing style itself had a distinct flowing rhythm, and according to Jay, his grandfather's words often bore a striking resemblance to the tone in Zodiac's cryptic, poetic letters. Adding yet another layer of intrigue is the so-called library desk message, a strange note discovered beneath a desk at a local library with cryptic wording and initials RH. Although no official link between this message and the Zodiac has been confirmed, Jay believes it's a hidden clue, a signature his grandfather may have left behind. To further support his theory, Jay describes Hoffman's darker personality traits. Jay paints his grandfather as a man with a violent, controlling nature who harbored an almost obsessive interest in order and discipline. Recalling the unsettling atmosphere around Hoffman, Jay explains how his grandfather would often recount the Ferrin case with a strange pride, reveling in details that seemed inappropriate. This, Jay claims, was one of the first hints that led him to suspect his grandfather's involvement in something more sinister. Hoffman's military background also fuels Jay's theory. Before joining the Vallejo police, Hoffman served in the military, giving him potential experience with codes and patterns. The Zodiac ciphers, still unsolved by many experts, display a level of knowledge that might have come from this kind of training, Jay suggests. It's circumstantial, but in the context of everything else, Jay believes it adds another layer of credibility to his suspicion. Taken together, Jay's account paints a disturbing picture. Each piece of evidence alone might seem inconclusive, but together they suggest that Richard Hoffman's ties to the Zodiac case were far closer and far more sinister than anyone realized. The question remains, could Jay's family history hold the key to America's most notorious unsolved mystery?